Welcome, everyone. Today, we're going to dive into a book that, let's be honest, a lot of people skip over, Leviticus, but I promise you we're going to uncover just how powerful and relevant its message really is. So, Leviticus. You hear the name and you probably think, ancient rules, weird sacrifices. What is this all about, right? And yeah, it can seem confusing, maybe even a little outdated. But at its core, this book is all about worship. And it's actually designed to answer a huge, fundamental problem that started way back at the very beginning. The whole story of Leviticus really starts by getting to the root of what was lost back in the Garden of Eden. And it's a two-part problem. Our relationship with God was broken, and because of that, our relationships with each other were broken too. Think about it like this. When Adam and Eve decided to go their own way, that primary relationship, the vertical one between them and God, it was completely shattered. And here's a principle that's just as true today as it was back then. When that vertical relationship with God shatters, the horizontal ones, our relationships with each other, they break down too. They become meaningless. You just can't separate them. So, what Leviticus shows us is that real worship and real fellowship are totally inseparable. You literally can't have one without the other. They are two sides of the very same coin. Okay, so how is God going to fix this deep, twofold problem? Well, when he rescued Israel from slavery in Egypt, he had a very specific purpose in mind. It wasn't just random. Take a look at this key verse from Exodus. The entire reason for freeing the Israelites wasn't just about politics or land. It was about restoring worship. It was all about mending that broken vertical relationship with him. Now, what's so interesting here is the why. Why did God give them such a specific way to worship him? Because when we humans are left to our own devices, our own ideas just create division, right? Different imaginations lead to different religions. But God's single prescribed plan, that's what creates true unity. And this plan is laid out for us in the first 7 chapters of Leviticus through 5 key offerings. Each one is like a lesson, teaching something totally unique about who God is and what he does for his people. So let's just quickly run through these. You've got the burnt offering, which was all about atonement, about God's total saving grace. Then the grain offering, which was about remembering how he delivered them. The fellowship offering, that was for celebrating being back in communion with God and with others. The sin offering was for forgiveness, and the guilt offering was all about restitution, making things right. The key takeaway here is that every single one was a physical act pointing to something so much deeper, a spiritual truth. Now, a word that's central to all of this is atonement. We hear it all the time, but what does that word actually mean? What was the idea behind it? Well, get this. The Hebrew word for atonement is the exact same word they used for the pitch, or the sealant, that Noah used to cover his ark and that was used on Moses' little basket. It's a substance that covers something in order to save it. And that just illustrates the point perfectly, doesn't it? Just like that sealant saved Noah from the floodwaters and baby Moses from the Nile River, the blood of the sacrifice acted as a saving covering for sin, protecting the people from judgment. And this ritual was so significant. When the worshiper laid their hand on the animal's head, their guilt was symbolically transferred to the animal, and the animal's innocence was transferred to the person. This was how a perfectly holy God could accept an imperfect, sinful person into his presence. Now, here's an absolutely crucial point. These sacrifices were only for unintentional sins. The mistakes we make, the times we fall short. They were not available for sins of high-handed, willful rebellion against God. Leviticus makes that distinction very clear. And that distinction leads us right to the most important part of this whole lesson. You see, this entire intricate system of sacrifices was never meant to be the final solution. It was a picture, a shadow, pointing to something or someone so much greater. You see, all those animal sacrifices, they were temporary. They only covered sin for a little while. They were the picture, the foreshadowing. But Jesus' sacrifice, that was permanent. It didn't just cover sin, it completely removed it. He is the reality that the whole system was pointing to from the very beginning. And this idea of a better ultimate sacrifice wasn't something new. It was promised from the very beginning of the story, right here in Genesis, right after sin entered the world. You could say the whole sacrificial system was designed to ask a question in people's minds. How can we ever truly be made right with a holy God? It showed them just how serious sin was and how deep their need for a perfect substitute was. And Jesus is the final, definitive answer to that question. So when you look at it this way, Leviticus isn't some dusty, outdated book of rules at all, is it? It's actually this incredibly rich and powerful roadmap that points straight to the cross. It helps us grasp the true cost, the unbelievable depth of what Jesus did for us. And that really leaves us with a big question, the one you see right here. How does this change the way you see the Old Testament?